And good morning, everybody. How y'all doing today? Now, I make no promises how the stream is going to go. I think maybe I've got whatever caused my system to absolutely crash and burn Monday fixed or Tuesday fixed. But like I said, I make no promises. All right. So, um, and I'd like to continue that conversation Tyre and I had going. And if anybody else wants to jump in on that conversation, we may do that later on in the stream. Okay. A couple of things I want to bring up here first. The biggest news is the fact that the House had a couple of votes on a couple of the members. George Santos to expel him and to censor Rashid Tlaib. Now, Santos, the reason why the Democrats wanted to expel him and a lot of Republicans wanted to expel him is basically the man should not be in office. He's a liar. He lied about his past. He lied about what he has done. He's lied. He's told so many lies that it's almost impossible to chronicle them all. His lies are numerous but it's no worse than honestly, it's no worse than Joe Biden's lies. All right, if we're going to, hey, Tyre, good morning. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So, Joe Biden's lies that the Democrats, it's just old Joe. Well, George seems to have taken lessons from Joe. I've got no problem. I mean, he's going. I'm hopefully he'll be a one-term congressman. Hopefully he'll get voted out. Hopefully he'll have somebody running a Republican running against him, and they'll get voted in. That it won't switch part. His seat won't switch parties. That's what I'm hoping because once again, and I know. As much as I would love to be able to say, I want every Republican in office to be as pure as driven snow. And that anybody who is a liar or is this or that, aren't honest Republicans. I don't want them in office. If you have numbers, still mean things. And you can be the one honest person out of 100. And if you're that one honest person out of 100, you're not going to get anything done in the House or in the Senate. If you don't have the numbers to have majority, your ability to get things done is going to be vastly reduced. Yes, there are rules, or supposed to be rules in place to uh, not allow the majority to roll over the minority party. But those rules only seem to count when it's the Democrats in minority. Because, of course, then, the media plays up about how the Republicans are breaking long-standing tradition and they're using their ability to control the vote to stifle the wishes of nearly half of the country, because nearly half the country is represented in those Democrats in the House, you know, even though they don't have the majority, they still represent American citizens. Now, you never hear these same journalists, you never hear these same commentators and upholders of the rules say that when the Republican Party is in the minority. You don't hear them talking about the minority party's rights. All you hear about then is how the minority party is thwarting the will of the majority of the country. See, the majority of the country, the majority only matters when it's the Democrats in power. When the Democrats aren't in power, then it's the minority that counts. Their wills have to be considered and given preference because they're Americans too. Yeah, we have got such a dishonest press, and we've got such a dishonest. And don't get me wrong, man. Yeah, I am bashing the press. I am bashing our Congress. I'm bashing the power structure. But we've still got the best system on this planet at this time. I honestly believe that. I also honestly believe that it's been corrupted, and we need to get back to decentralizing control over our media, decentralizing the controls of the opinion makers. Uh, I can honestly remember the time of when, like, 60 Minutes, they had point counterpoint, whereas they would have two people stand there or sit there and discuss an issue. And that if the left was given 2 minutes and 10 seconds, the right had to be given 2 minutes and 10 seconds. The Republican was given 2 minutes and 15 seconds. The Democrat had to be given 2 minutes and 15 seconds. All right. The Fair Time Act, I believe it was called. And that sort of went by the wayside with the uh, internet, because then with the internet you can't control, you can't you, they were you know you can't tell me that I have to give, if I'm having a 2 hour thing rant, that I have to give somebody else 2 hours. You can't tell YouTube that they have for every hour. Yeah, yeah, the fairness doctrine. That's what it was, Sean. Thanks for. Yeah, it's called the fairness doctrine, and the yeah you so the fairness doctrine has sort of gone by the wayside. But the problem with that on the national media, ABC, NBC, CBS, and broadcast Fox, not cable news Fox, but broadcast Fox. And see, this was an FCC ruling, and the FCC only covers broadcast. It doesn't cover cable. Yeah, live stream. Yeah, live stream debates like you like Tyre. And later on today, if you've got time, I'd like to if you are up for it, I'd like to sort of continue our discussion we had going on Tuesday. If you're up for it, okay? Because I mean, I got some good feedback on it, and I was actually enjoying it. But anyway, getting back here to the vote, so on George Santos and Tlaib. Santos was not expelled from Congress. There was about 30 Democrats voted not to expel him. They needed two-thirds majority to expel him. But at the same time, the same day, they tabled a resolution to censor Rashid Tlaib for her comments uh, spreading lies and supporting the terrorist organization known as Hamas. Okay. All right, Tyre, we'll table it for next week. We'll table that until sometime next week. But yes, so not being privy to all the backdoor stuff. Yes, a couple House members on the Republican side said the reason they voted to table it is while they found everything she said odious and disreputable and yada 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 yada. How much they hated it. They felt it was a violation of her free speech to censor her for her comments. And I'm going to call bullshit on that. Now, I was going to listen to Monkey Stream last night until I saw that he was talking about this. All right. So I have intentionally not listened to anybody else's commentary about the Santos vote or about Tlaib's not being censored. I haven't read any articles on it other than uh, some people talking, some of the Congress critters talking about why they voted not to expel Santos and why they voted not to censor Tlaib. So I'm just going off of my knowledge, my experience in watching how Congress and Congress critters act, how these political animals work. And short of putting every member of the House on under truth serum and a lie detecting machine and undergoing rigorous questioning multiple times, I will not go with any other reasoning than some backdoor trading happened here. Some well, we won't do this to your person if you don't vote for this for our person. Let's allow enough of our people to vote. And remember, the Democrats also wanted to censor MTG, censor Green. Well, no, Sean, that was a Republican talking about uh, Tlaib's free speech. It wasn't Democrats talking about somebody's free speech. No, the Democrats were also wanting to censor Green, and this was going to as one it was going to open up a whole shitstorm. And Republicans didn't want another mess opening up, dealing with individuals on a party line basis after they just went through this 3 week mess with not with trying to get a new House Speaker and all the accusations that they have made back and forth about not getting any work done for the American people. So the Republicans had a lot more to lose in the war of the words in the media than what the Democrats did. Because face it, Green is much hated by the press. Everybody who's got even a modicum of self-respect and even one honest bone in their body is not a fan of Santos. Uh, Tlaib being a member of the squad, a founding member of the squad. And remember, on her election night, I promise to impeach Donald effing Trump. So she is a favorite of the press. So the Republicans had a lot more to lose in this whole mess. And as badly as I honestly believe Tlaib should have been censored for her commentary for what she did right after October 7th and her public speeches that she gave. All right. Uh, and the way she's supporting Hamas. I honestly believe that woman should be, at a minimum, censored. And possibly even looked at giving material support to a known terrorist organization. I don't think that would be too far removed. The Republicans decided that it wasn't, that they would come out the big losers in the end. And I have to agree, they would have come out as the losers in the end of this whole mess. So that is my personal opinion as to why Santos was not expelled, why Tlaib and Green both escaped being censored, and the two parties decided that they were just going to swap votes back and forth until they got what they needed to get done. All right. It was a show vote. I think all these votes were show votes. So anyway, there's that. Okay. Enough about that. Um, did I must be losing it? I really must be, because I had not realized until yesterday afternoon that this character by the name of Doug Burgum, the governor of North Dakota, is out there running for president against Trump. I actually had to go back and look, and yeah, his name is out there. It's just he, as far as I can tell, has got, this is the first real press article I've seen on him. Why Doug Burgum is staying in a race he can afford to lose. With substantial personal fortune, the North Dakota governor is insistent on spreading his message despite calls to drop out. This seems like they're trying to do the job of the voters, he said in an interview on Saturday. But Burgum is committed to staying on the ballot in Iowa and New Hampshire, where he says he regularly meets people who are eager to vote for him. They're the ones that are going to decide how the field gets narrowed, not some other group. Okay. Burgum is saying, though he's only cracking 1% in the Iowa polls, his net worth is in hundreds of millions, and he's largely self-financing his campaign, lending it more than 12 million, with a further 3 million coming in from donations. Well, if he's got hundreds of millions and he's giving himself 10% on this campaign, then he's good to go. His campaign is now. See, this is again. He has spent 12 million, almost 13 million dollars, more than the campaigns of Haley, Christie, and Pence combined. But I hadn't heard squat about him. Now, is he spending all of his money in Iowa and New Hampshire, or what? But I mean, there's nothing going on here in Florida on him. Has Ty or Sean, have either one of you uh, seen anything about this character? I mean, I'm going to look him up. And do some research on him, see what his opinions and his platform is, because I honestly don't know. Sean, I'm going to be honest. I don't know. I honestly do not know anything about him. Uh, I started cooking for Thanksgiving this morning. I've got my 8 quart stock pot going. I've got 2.5 turkey carcasses in it. And I'm making my turkey broth or turkey stock uh, for my Thanksgiving dinner. And it should be done about 2 o'clock this afternoon. My house smells great right now. Got that simmering on low. Got, like I said, two turkey carcasses from last year sitting in there with onions and carrots and celery and all the spices. Yum, 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 yum. But that's why I didn't have do any research this morning on him. And last night, I'd been about 30 some, 40 some hours without any real sleep. And I just was in no position to do anything but sit on the couch. But anyhow, um, get back to this article. Where'd the article go? There it is. His biggest challenge is being known nationwide and getting known, which takes a lot of time, ads, and money. Yeah, I mean, he better get some stuff out there in the news. I mean, Nikki Haley's all over the place. Chris Christie is all over the place. Pence was known as being a vice president to Trump, but then Pence got a lot of negative press here since over the past 3 years for his commentaries about Trump. Pence shot himself in the foot as far as being a presidential candidate. So, um, like I said, this is another name that's out there that I had not heard much about. And if I hadn't heard much about him, I figured I'd at least get his name out there for other people to look at and see. And like I said, I'm going to do some research on him. I'll have some, with tomorrow being Friday and no politics Friday in the morning. I'll probably have some stuff on him for Monday's show. Okay? So of course, that's all given, what happens between now and Monday as far as in the world. I mean, we know that a lot of crap can happen. A lot of crap can happen. So, and speaking of a lot of crap happening, uh, Cornell has canceled classes for tomorrow because of threats against the Jewish students. And when we're talking threats, we're talking, not you should be, you know Jews suck or whatever, is actual threats of violence, of murder, shootings, this kind of stuff. They had a guy, a 21-year-old student, arrested last week for threatening to kill Jewish students. And I mean, he was a junior there at that school. Um, and so Cornell's got, they've allowed enough hate to be, to, over the years, all the universities have allowed the anti Semitic hate. Yeah, that's a good way of putting it, Sean, about Pence. Uh, the college universities have allowed so much hate against Israel and uh, and Jews to build up over the years that they are going to have to spend a lot of time protecting their Jewish students. Um, yeah, entire, okay, back here to this uh, Burgum character. Uh, remember, a lot of people have come out of who in the hell is that to be a president, or what kind of chance does this guy have? Nobody's ever heard of him. Nobody knows anything about him to actually being major contenders. So I'm going to do some research on him. Um, I haven't thrown my hat in any politician's ring yet because Vivek. Okay, my two that I like the most right now at this point in time uh, is Vivek and Trump. They're the two that I support the strongest. If I had to say who am I going to vote for, okay, it'd be one of these two characters as of right now. Vivek, yeah, he's 35, but he's in the same age range as the founding fathers were when they wrote the Constitution and did everything they needed to do. Um, he doesn't have a lot of the baggage that Trump has, yada yada yada. We all know about that. Uh, I and he says a lot of the right things. And you're right about that, Sean. I know a lot of people that are Trump or die people. And again, I like Trump I like what he did as president, but I think that with even the opposition, not counting the opposition he'll have from the press, not counting the opposition he'll have from the Democratic Party, the opposition within the Republican Party, I think, would hamstring him to the point that he would be very ineffectual as a president. There will be, like Ryan was uh, during his first administration, there will be enough Republicans in major positions in the House and Senate who will oppose anything he has to do or say simply because it's his name on it. And again, going back to what I said earlier, if you can't get the job done because of numbers, then you're the wrong person for the job. Yeah, Sean, when somebody, and see, it's hard to argue against somebody saying that this person has my 100% loyalty and no one else is going to have it. I'm not going to sell out the person I'm loyal to. I can respect that. I can respect the loyalty to an individual. All right. But, and while I do place um, a high emphasis on being loyal and on supporting your man or woman, supporting the person there. Okay. When it comes to, you also have to weigh in. Uh, are you willing to sell your loyalty for not getting nothing done, not getting reaching any of your goals, that you're not having any accomplishments? And I want to see accomplishments done. I want to see this swamp drained. I want to see things get made better in this country. Yeah, and Tyre, and I fully respect that. And I mean, and uh, betrayal of loyalty is a very ugly thing. And as much as, like I said, as much as I respect everything Trump got done during his first 4 years and wanted to get done and was tried to get done, but was held back by members within the Republican Party. All right. I can't push that loyalty to the point of self destruction to where nothing gets accomplished because the there's so much opposition to that person. And I'm not talking on moral grounds here. I'm talking about getting a job done, being effective in a position. All right. I'm not talking about a religious leader here. I'm not talking about a person who is uh, holding a moral high ground that I'm choosing to emulate. Okay. I'm talking about an individual that I'm hiring to do a job for me. And if let's say I was the CEO of a company and I needed someone to come in as a financial director, okay, and I knew, or not financial director, a director of operations, and I knew this. I mean, I was going to bring in a person. I mean, this man was an amazing director of operations. He knew the business inside and out. He knew how to get things done. He knew how things should work. He, but, but, 2/3 of the people that he would have to be leading absolutely refused to work with him. Okay. Do I hire him and have 2/3 of the people refuse to do anything that he says needs to get done, and therefore my job does the business fails because nothing gets accomplished? Or do I bring him in as an advisor and put somebody else in the DO in the director of operations, the DOO position, that I know that the rest of that the people that are going to have to work for him and with him will actually work for him and with him. Hey, morning, Retro. You've got to you've got to put where the rubber meets the road. Is things going to get done? Are things going to be able to get done before, or is, I mean, you can have the best DOO in the world, but if he is so disliked by everybody or by a large number of your people that they're not going to cooperate with him, then he's worthless as the DOO. But Tyler, that's just it. We've got 200 we've got 200 Republicans sitting there, and 75 of them, 80 of them say, no, I'm not going to do anything that Trump wants to get done. And they vote with the 200 Democrats all the time. Then you're ineffective. You've got an ineffective president. And part of being president, part of being a representative from president to Congress critter to whatever is getting things done that your constituents want you to get done. Okay, Tyre, that's right. But you can be fired tomorrow. All right. I don't know where you live. All right. I don't know what your state's laws are like. I live in Florida, which is a freedom to work state. I can go into work tomorrow and my boss not like the color of my shirt and they can fire me. I'm fired. All right. And but the Congress critters, hey duck dog, but Congress critters can't be fired that easily. Sean, you're right there too. They one of the things being, it's like a lot of blacks are saying now, what have, about the Democratic Party, the walk away that's been going on here within the Democratic Party with the blacks for the past, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 years. They've gone from getting 90% of the vote down to getting a little over 80%. And it has possibilities of going even lower than that because, they're saying, what are you doing for us? You know, they have rightly seen the Democratic leadership spending more time with illegal immigrants, want to spend more money on illegal immigrants. I mean, look at the protests against Adams. Look at the protests in Chicago and in Detroit. Because, the people were saying, wait a minute, we're the ones that elected you, and now you're ignoring us in favor of these illegals. So yeah, there's a lot going on here, and part of what I base my vote on is not only, do I like the person, do I like what they stand for, yeah, these things, but do I believe that they can get the votes together to get things done? Are they going to be an effective leader? And I honestly don't think Trump is going to be able to be an effective leader because I think he's going to have too much opposition by members of the Republican Party that I've got no vote for. I've got no control over them. They don't listen to me. I've got my House member, I've got my two Congress critters, and they're the only two that listen to me. They're the only two that have a reason to listen to me because they want my vote. Nobody else from any other state's got any reason to listen to me because I'm not their constituent. The only person that they've got a reason to listen to are the people that actually have the right and the ability to vote for them. That's what it boils down to. That's why my Congress critters and my senators, my House members are, I'm on their, oh my God, it's him again list. Okay, Tyre, I need you to define what you mean by puppet. Because remember, every one of these people that we vote to send into any office, all right, they're there to represent us and to do as we want them to do. All right? So they are, in effect, our puppet, our collective puppet. Now, you may be speaking about, well, they're the puppet of corporations, they're the puppet of this, they're the puppet of that company, they're not the puppet of their constituents. And okay, that's an apt description of a lot of them. But they're all a puppet. They all have, but most of them, or we expect them to be our puppet, that we're the ones pulling their strings. So, yeah, I know. I'm I burst a lot of bubbles with what I've got to say about some of this stuff sometimes because you know just the way I view the way politics works. Uh, I lost my naivety to politics back in the 60s and early 70s, long before I became old enough to vote. So, uh, as I've said before, my awakening into politics came with the Kent State shootings. Sean, I'm not going to disagree with you on that either. So, but yeah, I mean what was that? The Kent State shootings. That was 1970. So I was 10, 11 years old when that happened. And the politics and everything that went on with that at that time was something else. So, yeah, there's going to be a lot of it. Okay. All right. So, let me uh see a skeleton, yes. Okay, now I'm actually going to be able to get back to one of the things I did a lot of when I first started streaming, and I've done a lot of over the years, which uh, there was some pretty good. Ray and Mayorkas were testifying again before the Senate. And there was a lot of little fireballs thrown back and forth. So let's start off here with Josh Hawley. There's some of these people, Josh Hawley, Kennedy, Cruz, infamous for their direct questioning. And there's others like Scott from Florida, who's absolutely worthless with his questioning. But
Terry Mayorkas, let me start with you. You're familiar with the chant, "From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free." You familiar with that?
I am.
Do you know what it means?
okay, is that sharing correctly? Okay. There. Oh, okay. I see the problem. There we go. Got it fixed. It was on my end.
Means.
I do.
Now let me back this up.
You're familiar with the chant, "From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free." You familiar?
Now we've all heard this, and we've been hearing a lot of it here for almost a month. And we all know what it means, that the total eradication of Israel and every Jew there. So let's hear what this numbnut's got to say.
Familiar with that?
I am.
Do you know what it means?
I do.
Can you explain it to us?
Senator, that is a chant that speaks of Palestinian desire for its homeland and a
There's problem one. Palestine does not have a homeland. It never has. It never had a homeland.
of Palestinian desire for its homeland and a very expansive definition of its homeland at the expense of the independence of Israel.
Well, indeed.
You bald-headed, ignorant son of a bitch. The more I see this guy, the more I hear him testify. I want to see firing squads brought back. If there could not have been more of a lazy Susan, wishy-washy, milquetoast commentary on the meaning of that chant, I've never heard it.
Indeed. I mean, it calls for the elimination of Israel, does it not?
It does.
So my question to you is, should students who are here on a visa, who gather and chant that slogan and actively advocate for the elimination of Israel and attacks on Jewish individuals, whether in the Middle East or here in the United States, as we're seeing on college campuses, should those students have their visas revoked?
Senator, I believe you are referencing a provision in the Immigration and Nationality Act about which you have written to me, and I am very familiar with your assertion that that statutory provision requires the revocation of their visa.
But should they have their visas revoked? I'm asking you.
We are assessing your legal assertion. It is a matter of legal interpretation of the statute.
Well, just
Okay. I'm trying to gather my breath here for a second. All right. Because I don't want to yell and scream at any in your guys' ears. Anybody supporting an active terrorist organization that is not a by birth U.S. citizen anybody that is here on a visa of any kind or has been naturalized can be deported from the country. You can have your nationalization, your U.S. citizenship stripped from you. And you can be deported if you've gone through the naturalization process. If you're here on a student visa, you can be deported. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. And that is exactly what should be happening. These people are supporting, openly advocating for terrorist organization. And to hear Mayorkas say, "Well, we're evaluating the legalities of it," it's in the law.
as a moral matter, I mean, should students who are here, foreigners who are here in this country, accessing our university system and advocating for the killing of Jews, should they be allowed to stay here at our leisure?
Senator, it is a matter of law, and it requires a legal interpretation, and I am not in a position to provide that legal interpretation. And let me add something.
Wait. I just, my time is very limited. I have to say, I think your answer is disappointing, but let me ask you something else. Let me ask you about people who say other things. What about people who say things like, on October the 7th, F Israel, I'm cleaning up the language here, F Israel, the government and its military, are you ready for your downfall? People who say things like F Israel and any Jew who supports Israel. May your conscience haunt your dreams until your last breath. Palestine will be free one day. F apartheid Israel and is any Israeli. This is pretty extreme rhetoric, don't you think?
Senator, I do, and I think there is a distinction between espousing or endorsing terrorist ideology and speech that is odious, that does not rise to that level.
Fair enough. This person works for you. This is Nuja Ali, an employee of the Department of Homeland Security, who posted these comments on October the 7th. That's not all she posted. She also posted this graphic. Now, this is a fake graphic, I want to be clear, but I think we understand it. This is a paraglider, a Hamas paraglider.
Okay, I'm sorry. I need to just to show the law here. Okay. All right. I'll get back to this other one here in a second. All right. This is the letter from Rubio and other people to urge the removal of Hamas and terrorist supporters. All right. And coming down here to the actual law itself. All right. The U.S. Department of Homeland Security is tasked with protecting America from those who seek to do us harm. Section 101 of the Homeland Security Act states that DHS's primary mission is to prevent terrorist attacks within the United States and reduce the vulnerability of the United States to terrorism. The core responsibility was born from lessons learned on September 11th, 2001. All right, yada, yada. Go on down here. All right. 8 U.S.C. subsection 1182A3 mandates that in addition to those who engage in terrorist activity or material support thereof, anyone who endorses or espouses terrorist activity or persuades others to endorse or espouse terrorist activity or support a terrorist organization. Now, Hamas is a terrorist organization. It's been deemed that years ago. Nothing's new about that. There is nothing new about Hamas being a terrorist organization. And right there's the outlines. Of what it takes. Okay, these people is inadmissible into the United States and eligible for visas. As an FTO, support for Hamas and calling for others to join Hamas Day of Range fits squarely in this criteria. Further, under 8 U.S.C. 1201, the U.S. Department of State has the authority to revoke these visas. Under these authorities, you must immediately perform a full review and coordinate within the Department of State to revoke the visas of those who have endorsed or espouse Hamas terrorist activities, then deport them. Aside from identifying and deporting jihadist supporters, DHS should also be proactively working to ensure these aliens cannot obtain any additional immigration benefits. What we got here? Hey, morning, Raman. That is the law as it states. There is no reason why Mayorkas and Blinken should not be immediately going down through the list of these individuals, checking to see which ones are here on visas, and immediately revoke their visas and deport them. Immediately. Take them into custody and put their asses on planes heading back to the Middle East or back to their home countries, wherever they're from. They should be immediately being, this should have already started. No ifs, no ands, no buts about it. But it's not happening. And why isn't it happening? Because we've got people like Tlaib and the rest of the squad who openly support Hamas. That's why it's not happening. And we got people within Homeland Security. I backed up the video.
This is Nuja Ali. My
All
time
right.
is very limited. I have to say, I think your answer is disappointing, but let me ask you something else. Let me ask you about people who say other things. What about people who say things like, on October the 7th, F Israel, I'm cleaning up the language here, F Israel, the government and its military, are you ready for your downfall? People who say things like F Israel and any Jew who supports Israel. May your conscience haunt your dreams until your last breath. Palestine will be free one day. F apartheid Israel and is any Israeli. This is pretty extreme rhetoric, don't you think?
Senator, I do, and I think there is a distinction between espousing or endorsing terrorist ideology and speech.
Let me correct you here, okay? We'll go back to the letter. Let's go back to the law, all right? Let's get back to the law, all right? As you know, 8 USC 1182, subsection A, subsection 3, mandates that in addition to those who engage in terrorist activity or material support thereof, endorses anybody who engages terrorist activity or material support thereof, anyone who endorses or espouses terrorist activity or persuades others to endorse or espouse terrorist activity or support a terrorist organization. Mayorkas, this is the law. You don't, what you think doesn't matter. It's what does the law say?
That is odious, that does not rise to that level.
Fair enough. This person works for you. This is Nuja Ali, an employee.
They have got supporters of the terrorist organization working for them. Now, let's just change this up. Let's just change this up here. Somebody supports the KKK. Somebody who supports a neo-Nazi organization working in DHS. How long do you think they'd have their job if it came out that somebody was supporting DHS or somebody within DHS supported the KKK or was a neo-Nazi? Do you think Mayorkas would be sitting there? Well, just be, it may not rise. Bullshit. They'd be gone in a half a heartbeat.
Of the Department of Homeland Security who posted these comments on October the 7th. That's not all she posted. She also posted this graphic. Now, this is a fake graphic, I want to be clear, but I think we understand it. This is a paraglider, a Hamas paraglider, depicted here with a machine gun flying into Israel. She posted it under her online alias with the celebratory Free Palestine. Mr. Secretary, what's going on here? Is this typical of people who work at DHS? This is an asylum and immigration officer who is posting these, frankly, pro-genocidal slogans and images on the day that Israelis are being slaughtered in their beds. What have you done about this?
4 things I'd like to say to you. Number one, your question to suggest that that is emblematic of the men and women of the Department of Homeland Security.
That is not what he said. You lying sack of shit. Withdraw. Take your made up, faked up anger there. Your oh my God, you said something negative. No, he did not say that everybody in the Homeland Security and DHS felt that way. Let's go back. Let's go back to what he actually said.
Mr. Secretary, what's going on here? Is this typical of people who work at DHS? This is an asylum and immigration officer who is posting these frankly pro-genocidal slogans and images on the day that Israelis are being slaughtered in their beds.
Mayorkas, all you gotta say is no, it's not typical. This is abhorrent. That's all you gotta say.
What have you done about this?
4 things I'd like to say to you. Number one, your question to suggest that that is emblematic of the men and women of the Department of Homeland Security is despicable.
I'm sorry, what have you done? This person works for the Department of Homeland Security. Have you fired her?
That was one of 4 answers.
Have you fired her?
One,
Have you fired her? Don't come to this hearing room when Israel has been invaded and Jewish students are barricaded in libraries in this country and cannot be escorted out because they are threatened for their lives. You have employees who are celebrating genocide, and you are saying it's despicable for me to ask the question? Has she been fired?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Secretary.
after the consumption of Senator Hawley's time, I'd like to speak.
Has she been fired?
Because I will
We
not
would like
be,
an answer. Would you?
because I will not be given the opportunity.
Has she been fired?
So that individual has been placed on administrative leave.
So she's not been fired.
Number
Administrative leave. She's still getting paid. She is getting paid to sit at home and praise Hamas. She hasn't been fired. She still has her security clearance.
two.
Why has she not been fired?
Number two, the individual was hired in 2019.
Why has she not been fired?
Why does it matter when she was hired? It doesn't matter why she's hired. What matters is she's still on the government payroll today. She wasn't terminated immediately.
3, I cannot speak to an ongoing personnel matter.
Why?
Bullshit. Bullshit. That's a lie.
Why has this person not been fired? Your answer is you can't speak to it? This isn't sufficient to fire her?
I am not in a position to speak to an ongoing personnel matter.
This
That-
isn't sufficient to fire her? That's what you're telling me?
That is not what I'm saying.
But she's still on your payroll as we sit here today.
That is not what I'm saying.
She's still on your payroll as we sit here today.
Senator,
How many cases? She was an asylum and immigration officer. How many cases did she adjudicate?
Senator, I'm not in a position to speak about an ongoing personnel.
I'm not asking about that. I'm asking you how many cases she adjudicated.
My answer remains.
Did she adjudicate any cases involving Israelis seeking asylum in this country?
Same answer.
Well, let me just point you.
This is a man, he's right there. He's refusing to answer any questions. He's refusing to answer a question as to what this woman has done, what she did as part of her job. I refuse to answer. I refuse to answer. Why? Why are you refusing to answer?
To what else she posted on social media, where she drew attention to the fact that she is an immigration and asylum officer. Hashtag immigrants, hashtag asylum seekers, hashtag Palestine, hashtag refugees welcome. This is on her LinkedIn post where she has her professional affiliation posted. So I think the American people deserve to know, has she admitted, contrary to law, individuals who should not be in this country or denied Jewish refugees whose genocide she's advocating, asylum that they deserve?
Same answer.
You're not gonna tell us what this person's done? Are you conducting a review of her cases at least?
Senator, as I have said, over and over again, I cannot speak to an ongoing
You said that you will
personnel
not. I
matter.
can't believe that you would come to this committee knowing this. You know about this. I've written to you about it. You know all about it. And you come here unwilling to answer and suggest that it is wrong of me to ask you the question. Quite frankly, Mr. Secretary, I think that your performance is despicable. And I think the fact that you are not willing to provide answers to this committee is absolutely atrocious.
I've been saying almost since Mayorkas got this job, since his first hearing, even his first confirmation hearing, that one, I felt he shouldn't have been confirmed. And two, every hearing this man goes to, it's the same nonsense. It's the same nonsense. He refuses to answer the questions. All right, I lost my live chat here. No, I don't want to clip it. There we go. Yeah, exactly, Tyre. She is being rewarded with paid time off. It's not vacation time. It's not being counted against her vacation time either. She's getting paid to sit at home and make all these threats and comments as a representative of the United States government. I'm going back to my days in the military. All right. I was a young and dumb airman, slick sleeve, no stripes, E1, going home for the first time, Christmas time. Salvation Army was singing carols. I'm waiting for my plane at the airport, and the Salvation Army is out there singing carols. And I'm standing over the side listening to them, and I'm sort of singing along with them. Somehow or another, a photograph of me ended up in the local newspaper. When I got back from leave, and I'm traveling in uniform, I'm traveling in my Class A blues. Obviously, a slick sleeve. The only thing on my uniform is my name tag. My name tag and the U.S. brass. I had not even earned my maintenance badge yet. So I got a name tag, the U.S. brass on my collar, and that's it. I've got nothing else on my jacket. There is nothing else on my blouse. I get back off of leave, and the first thing I'm done is hauled up before the first sergeant. And he's got a copy of that newspaper in hand with me standing there next to, not in the Salvation Army, but next to him. And he's telling me how much trouble I can get into because me standing there in uniform is apparently endorsing the Salvation Army as a member, because I'm staying there in uniform doing it. And and that can be taken as an endorsement by the U.S. government of the Salvation Army. And he read me the riot act. He was nice about it because obviously I had no clue what the hell was going on. And he was nice about it. But he told me I could have been court-martialed for that. Now, you want to talk about scaring somebody straight. And when I first started streaming and getting into political discussions, and this was back during, well, it was actually back before the Clinton administration. I started getting political discussions in 1985. And I went to the legal office. And I talked to them. What can I say or do? What can I let people know? Can I tell them I'm active duty? Can I tell them I'm this? Can I, what can I say and still keep me out of trouble? What are my limitations on my speech? And they gave me a whole list of things that I could and couldn't say. They gave me a whole list. Okay. Let's see here. Tire. I will have to do that later. Let's see. Even if I'm off, I can't go into a bar in my uniform off on my own time. But if it wasn't in my uniform, I'm golden. Exactly. Anything. And I couldn't even reference. I could not even reference that I was active duty. There was nobody. I did not discuss my military, anything about my military, until after my official date of retirement in 1998. So for 13 years, I'm discussing politics. And I couldn't even, and following a very strict code. Now, these guys, we've got people who openly work for the government and openly endorsing terrorist organizations, and they're not being fired. Nothing has happened. She's put on a paid vacation, of which it's free vacation because it's not being drawn against her vacation time. This is absolutely disgusting.
Mr. Chairman, may I?
Now, listen to this self-serving, oh, woe is me, I've been poorly put upon rant by this bald-headed son of a bitch.
Like, if you'd like to have a minute to respond, you are
Oh,
welcome to.
I would, and I'm not sure I'll limit it to 60 seconds.
That's fine.
Number one, what I found despicable is the implication that this language, tremendously odious, actually it could be emblematic of the sentiments.
He didn't say emblematic. He asked you if it was typical of some of your employees. Two different words, totally two different meanings, so stop lying.
Of the 260,000 men and women of the Department of Homeland Security. Number one. Number two, Senator Hawley takes an adversarial approach to me.
Of course he does, because you're a liar and you refuse to answer questions. You don't follow the laws, or you only follow the laws you want to.
In this question, and perhaps he doesn't know my own background. Perhaps he does not know that I am the child of a Holocaust survivor. Perhaps he does not know that my mother lost almost all her family at the hands of the Nazis. And so I find his adversarial tone to be entirely misplaced.
His adversarial tone has nothing to do with what your mother went through. It has to do with what you do. It has to do with your actions. It has to do with what you say. It has to do with how you refuse to answer questions. It has to do with how you refuse to follow the laws. That's what it has to do with. What your mother and your mother's family went through doesn't mean squat.
I find it to be disrespectful of me and my heritage, and I do not expect an apology, but I did.
You don't deserve an apology. If anything else, the American people deserve an apology from you.
Want to say what I just articulated. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, can I just respond, since he has referenced me personally?
Senator Hawley, we need to move on. Senator.
Stop spending money.
Oh, yeah. Any other time when somebody is referenced, they directly like that, they're given time to respond to that to the commentary, especially when it's negative. They get a chance to defend themselves. But Mayorkas wasn't done. This wasn't all Mayorkas had.
Thank you so much. Mr. Secretary, approximately how many illegal aliens in this country or here on asylum have direct ties to Hamas, to Hezbollah, to the Islamic Jihad, or the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps of Iran?
Senator Marshall, let me assure you that the individuals that pose a risk to our national security are our highest enforcement priority. The safety and security of the American public.
Do you have any idea how
is
many
our
numbers,
highest
what those
mission.
numbers are? Is it tens, is it hundreds, is it thousands?
An individual who poses a risk to our national security is our highest enforcement priority, and if
So
detention.
you don't know the answer to the question?
And if detention is indeed warranted by reason of the risk they present, then we indeed detain them.
Why have you not been detaining these students here on visas? Huh? Why haven't you been detaining these students who are attacking Jewish students on college campuses? Why haven't you been doing that? You say you're doing it, but I'm sorry, I haven't read any reports. I haven't seen any reports of the FBI or DHS going to college campuses, revoking that Blinken has revoked passports and visas. I haven't seen any of that happening, so stop lying.
Do you have an answer for my question?
I believe I have answered your question.
No, sir, you didn't. I asked you how many have direct ties to Hamas, Hezbollah, Islam Jihad?
Senator, if an individual is identified as having a nexus to one of those organizations, we would consider them a risk to our national security and take appropriate enforcement action to include, for example, detention and removal.
And you want to know why you are met with hostility and adversary when you're up there testifying? You're asked a question and you refuse to answer it. You give the answer you want to give. You don't give the answer to the question as asked.
Let's back up. Will DHS and when will DHS disclose the countries of origin of people arrested by Border Patrol on the terrorist watch list?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question, Senator?
Yep. Will DHS and when will DHS disclose the countries of origin of people arrested by Border Patrol on the terrorist watch list?
If you are referring, Senator, to the terrorist screening data set, just to be precise, I would be pleased to speak with you in the appropriate context. This would not be it.
Why not? Why isn't this it? Why is it not the right of the American people to know how many people you have, the DHS, Homeland Security, Border Patrol have arrested either in our country or attempting to enter our country, and what countries they're from? Why is this against our right to know? Why should you not tell us in an open hearing? That should be public record.
How many gotaways did CBP record in fiscal year 2023?
I believe, Senator, that number is over 600,000, and as I'm sure you are well aware, the phenomenon of gotaways is something that has been a challenge for the Department of Homeland Security for decades. In fact, it is a powerful example of a broken immigration system that
Thank you.
No, it's not an example of a broken immigration system. It is an example of lack of security at the borders. That's what it's an example of. All right? I've got a farm. I've got a farm. And my goats keep getting into the neighbor's farm. Is that an example of a broken system? Or is it an example of me not having my borders properly secured? I've got a carrot patch. And everybody knows that rabbits love carrots. And I go out to my carrot patch and I see that I've got carrots and missing that because rabbits have invaded my carrot patch. Is it an example of, oh no, you rabbits, I don't have a good immigration system for rabbits into my carrot patch? Or is it an example, I don't have a proper border security around my carrot patch to keep the rabbits out? I don't have proper fencing up. I haven't done what I needed to do to keep rabbits out of my carrot patch. That's the problem here, Mayorkas. It's not a broken immigration system. It's a lack of security at the borders. It's Democrats. It's the president. It's the vice president telling people that they're welcome. We don't care where you're from. We're open borders. We'll feed you. We'll clothe you. We'll give you cell phones, and we'll tell you to report to a judge 20 years from now to see whether or not you should be able to stay in the country.
You. I'm going to talk about Chinese nationals for a second. Would you agree with me that over 18,000 Chinese nationals, many are military-aged young men, have illegally crossed the southern border in fiscal year 2023?
Senator, I don't have the precise number, but as I said, individuals who are encountered are placed into immigration enforcement proceedings, and if they qualify for asylum.
With all due respect, you would agree with me it's over 8.
This man deserves a zero respect. There is no all due respect when it comes to this man. Him and Rye deserve zero respect.
18,000 though.
I do not have the number at my disposal.
Do you know where the Chinese nationals are settling, where they're working, why they're here? How do you follow them?
Senator, if an individual has fled China and seeks asylum and qualifies for asylum, for example, if they fear persecution
I understand
by
that.
reason of their membership in a particular social group.
How do you follow
And
them?
there
That's
is-
not my question. How do you follow them? Do you have a heightened concern for these people?
So, Senator, if an individual poses a risk to public safety or national security, they are deemed a priority and can be placed in detention if the facts so warrant. If indeed we determine in the exercise of our law enforcement discretion that detention
There's that magic word of his, discretion. We have the discretion to say, screw it, we don't need to follow anybody. We don't need to follow these laws. We have the discretion not to put these people where we can watch them and keep an eye on them until all of our investigations are done. We have the discretion to do what we want despite and in spite of what the laws actually are.
is not required because they do not present.
We understand, we all understand all that, Mr. Secretary. Thank you. I want to go back to gotaways. I'm sure you'll agree with me that under Mr. Biden, that at least 1.7 million gotaways have evaded apprehension at our border. How many of these known gotaways have convictions in their prior country for rape or murder? How many of these known gotaways have been prosecuted and deported?
3 points, Senator. Number one, as I articulated earlier in this hearing, we are seeing a number of displaced individuals throughout our hemisphere that is unprecedented.
Displaced. Oh, they've been displaced. No, they haven't been displaced. They left their homes on their own. They weren't driven out by wars. They weren't driven out by famine. They weren't driven out by floods. They weren't driven out by volcanoes exploding. They decided that they wanted to come to the United States. There was no irrevocable issues in their homelands, in their own countries, that made them flee with nothing but the clothes on their back. So they're not displaced. They're voluntary. They left their homes. They left their countries. They left them voluntarily.
Number one. Number two, we are dealing with a broken immigration system.
It's only broken because you guys aren't following the laws. This man's favorite words are broken immigration system. That's his favorite words. It's because you're not following the damn laws.
Number three.
But you're not going to answer my question.
Number three, if an individual.
How many of these known gotaways have committed crimes in the United States since you were sworn in?
Let me assure you that if an individual poses a risk to public safety.
See, again, a lot, if it wasn't for the fact that these hearings show exactly how this administration and these people refuse to answer questions and be accountable for their actions and inactions, these hearings would be worthless. Because nothing ever comes out of them. Because Mayorkas and Rye and the rest of them refuse to answer the questions put before
them. Pursuant to the enforcement guidelines.
But you have no ability to measure that?
Pursuant to the enforcement guidelines that I promulgated on September 30th of 2021, the individual is.
How many of these known gotaways are trafficking fentanyl?
The individual is an enforcement priority.
How many of these known gotaways are trafficking fentanyl?
Senator, we well know that the trafficking of fentanyl is not specific to a nationality.
Again, blame it on everybody and not answer the question.
Tragically, we have individuals from various countries of origin. We have American citizens trafficking in fentanyl. Fentanyl is a scourge that we must all work together to overcome.
Okay, let's talk about the 169 individuals encountered on the terror watch list between the ports of entry in fiscal year 2023. How many were deported? How many are jailed? How many are still in the country?
Senator, with respect to the individuals on the terrorist screening data set, I would be pleased to provide you with the numbers in the appropriate context.
Why isn't this the appropriate context? Why is this not the appropriate context? Why will you not answer the question? Why are you insistent on keeping the American people ignorant of what's going on? Why?
Of the over 75,000 special interest aliens who crossed our border illegally this fiscal year, what are their whereabouts? How are you tracking these people?
We have a number of ways of tracking them, Senator. If in fact they present a national security or public safety threat, we very well may detain them. If we do not believe that detention is appropriate, we have alternatives to detention. It's known by its acronym ATD, and we have various levels of supervision depending on the enforcement profile that the individual presents.
Okay. The folks back home, when they look at the evidence, they see that the DEA seized over 380 million doses of fentanyl in 2022. 73,000 Americans died from fentanyl poisoning in 2022, mostly young adults, school-aged children, and that 90% of the fentanyl comes from our southern border. Considering that just last month, our Border Patrol had almost 270,000 encounters, including 75,000 special interest aliens. Do Americans feel they're more safe today or less safe today under the policies of this administration?
Senator, we are taking it to the cartels, to the traffickers of fentanyl in an unprecedented way with.
But you're not answering the question. You're not answering the question. I don't know who this woman is here in the background, but these smug looks on her face just get to me all throughout this whole thing.
More resources and more efficient and productive operations than ever before.
But you would agree with me that Americans feel less safe today than they did before the start of this administration. And your testimony has only solidified the view that American people, that they don't have confidence in the job that you're doing. This is why I believe the defining issue in this next election is going to be exactly this. Are our families safer today than they were 3 years ago? Thank you. I yield back.
And are we safer today than we were 3 years ago? No. We absolutely were not. Our buddy Josh, Josh Hawley, of course, they have multiple rounds when they're talking to these people. Josh Hawley here, he had a second go round.
We talked about the tens of thousands, it's actually 420,000 unaccompanied migrant children who have come across the border under your watch. We talked about the reports of the number of these children who have been lost, who have been sold into labor trafficking, into sex trafficking. Since your last appearance, the numbers have grown worse. It now approaches 100,000 children, according to public reports, 100,000 children lost by your department and the Biden administration, migrant children sold into labor trafficking and sex trafficking. Now, your Department of Homeland Security.
100,000 children. I have a very difficult time wrapping my mind around 100,000 children have been brought into this country illegally or even legally, unaccompanied minors, and turned over to God knows who. Because remember, Trump had a DNA matching program that before children were turned over to anybody, a DNA matching test had to be accomplished first to prove a familial relationship. Well, one of the first things Biden and Mayorkas did when they came into office was end that program. Yeah, you're right, Raman. And I wish there was a way, but see the way they've got to, and the way the Senate and the House works is they're only given so many minutes and so many rounds. Mayorkas I want to say it was Mayorkas once ended his hearings early. I want to say it was last year, because he had a very important appointment he had to meet, and he had to get to the private airport to get on his private plane, taxpayer-funded jet, to go to the out of state to this very important meeting. It turned out it was his birthday party. He cut congressional hearings short so he could jump in a government-funded private aircraft, a Learjet, to make it to a birthday party. Absolutely despicable, to use one of his favorite terms.
Security Investigations has the authority to do child exploitation investigations. How many of these kids have you gotten back?
Senator, we actually have prioritized the rescue of children who have been human trafficked. Our role in the immigration process is to, with respect to unaccompanied children specifically, is to turn them over under the law within 72 hours to the Department of Health and Human Services, and that is indeed what we do.
But how many of the children, nearly 100,000 children in the you've read the New York Times reports, I assume, Mr. Secretary.
I have read many reports, Senator Hawley.
But do you know what I'm talking about with the number of children who have been sent to operate heavy machinery, who are not being paid, who are not going to school, who are being denied food, migrant children unaccompanied, who are now in the clutches of labor traffickers? You're familiar with this, right?
That is precisely why I revised our worksite enforcement.
Good. How many
guidelines
of the
to
kids
focus-
have you gotten back then? 85,000 or more now, lost contact with. It's been months since you were last here. How many of those children have you rescued? Can you give me a number?
You are conflating issues.
So you can't give me a number.
He's asking you a simple question. Over 85,000 children are missing. How many have you rescued? 85,000 children have gone missing. How many did you manage to rescue? Answer the simple question.
You haven't rescued any of these children. You haven't gotten any of them back.
You are conflating issues and what is within our remit and what is outside of it.
Okay. Well, it doesn't sound to me like this is a priority, and I have to tell you, that's what your own agents tell me as well. A whistleblower from your Agency of Homeland Security Investigations has come to me and has said that special agents who are working on child trafficking cases and fentanyl interdiction cases have been pulled off of their investigations and sent to the southern border. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of these agents at a time, taken out of the field, taken off child exploitation cases, and sent to the southern border. Here's some of what she said. She said, "We're being told to shut down investigations, to go hand out sandwiches and escort migrants to the shower and sit with them while they're in the hospital, and those types of tasks."
Yeah, when they first said they were being sent to the southern border, I'm like, oh, wow. You mean Mayorkas is actually sending people down there to defend our border? No. They're pulling people off of the position and investigations to rescue children. And you and I, we all know. There's no dummies here. A lot of these children are being sexually abused. We know that. There's no pie in the sky naivety here. And he's pulling them off of these investigations to hand out sandwiches. Mayorkas, I hope you rot in the lowest depths of hell for what you've done.
Mr. Secretary, you're taking special agents away from investigating child traffickers and child exploitation when you've lost tens of thousands of kids to traffickers, and you're sending them to make sandwiches at the border. What is going on?
You are incorrect, Senator.
Are there special agents from HSI at the border?
Senator, we have a number of priorities. We prioritize trafficking in children. We prioritize the fight against fentanyl. We prioritize
Mr. Secretary, you're not answering my question. You're not answering my question. Are there HSI special agents who are currently at the border, having been pulled away from other cases? Yes or no?
Combating the fight against fentanyl, yes.
how many agents are currently at the border having been pulled off of their other cases?
To fight the scourge of fentanyl, I'd be very pleased to provide you with that data.
That's not what the special agent is alleging. That's not what she said. She said that they're being taken off of fentanyl interdiction, off of child exploitation cases, off of their other investigations into criminals to make sandwiches. That's her quote. You're saying that this is a lie, that she's wrong?
Senator, we have a number of law enforcement priorities with the reason.
And making sandwiches is one of them. And here's a question for you guys, okay? Here's a question for you. Now, this is the Forbes video. It says right there. This is Forbes. All right. And I actually paid to use their videos because you can't get these through C-SPAN anymore. C-SPAN doesn't put these out like they used to. Okay? So if you're going to get them, you have to get them through Forbes or The Blaze or other organizations. Why hasn't this been the headlines of the New York Times or any other newspaper? Why hasn't ABC, NBC, CBS, MSNBC, Fox News? Why has not this been above the fold, top of the hour news stories? I'm nobody special. I'm a man, 64-year-old man sitting here wearing a pair of socks, a pair of flannel pajama bottoms, and a t-shirt sitting on my couch with a dog sleeping next to me. I'm talking about this. Why aren't the professionals who are getting paid to tell the American people what's going on? Why aren't they talking about this? Somebody come up with a good, valid reason why they're not talking about this. Raman, you can't hear me?
Is making sandwiches one of them?
We have, of course not, Senator. We accomplish a tremendous amount.
Is she wrong?
Because of the tremendous talent and dedication of our personnel, including Homeland Security investigations.
Making sandwiches for illegal immigrants. Is she wrong? This is one of your agents. Is she wrong? She says that there are 600 at least special agents pulled off of other cases, sent down to the border to babysit illegal immigrants. Is she wrong?
Senator, our personnel, we use our personnel to achieve the maximum law enforcement objective possible. That is what we do. And
So you're not going to deny it?
And I'm incredibly proud of what our people do
Well, this is
every
news.
single day.
This is news. Well, I want to thank this brave whistleblower for coming forward and let the record reflect that the secretary will not deny what she has said, that hundreds of special agents are pulled off of their law enforcement duties all around the country, by the way. Her testimony to me is this happens all around the country and sent down to the border to make sandwiches for illegal immigrants. This is your administration in action. It's a total failure, Mr. Secretary.
That is incorrect.
Marshall, you're
3 routes to avoid.
Okay. No, I did pause the screen I did pause it there for a moment. Okay. But once again, why isn't this the news? I don't care if you're a Republican. I don't care if you're a Democrat. I don't care if you're pro or anti-immigration. One thing that all of us should agree on is the children in our country should not be being abused. I don't care whether or not they got here illegally. I may want to deport them, But while they're in our country and while we are responsible for them, they should not be getting abused. This and segment, that segment right there should be the headline news. That segment should be headline news. That this administration has taken people off of trying to rescue 85 to 100,000 children inside the United States who are being abused. And I don't know how many of those being sexually abused. But nothing is happening. Nothing is being said. Nothing is being done in our press. And the presidential candidates. Why isn't Vivek? Why isn't Trump? And I can almost excuse Trump. All right, Trump has got so much shit on his plate. I mean, hell, they're trying to ban the man from being on ballots. You know, he's got a lot on his plate, so I can understand why he hasn't been paying attention to these hearings like this and isn't coming out on it. All right, but some of his spokespeople should be. Some of his supporters should be making issues on this. And there is no excuse for any of the news media, none of any of the news media not to have had that out there, that this is going on. It's, and and this isn't the end of what I've got here. Let's see here. I've got at least another 40 minutes of testimony. Just by these two characters. Just by Mayorkas. Just on Mayorkas. I've got at least another 30 to 40 minutes worth of testimony here that I want to cover. And none of it's any better than what you've already heard. None of it is any better than what I've already covered over the past hour. And I've only covered 15 minutes worth of testimony over the past hour. About 15 to 20 minutes worth of testimony. That's it. Raman, you're right. You are so right. Here, he should be pleading the fifth on this. Years ago, one of my favorite sci-fi shows until it turned, until about the fourth or fifth season when it turned stupid. Cripes. Now I can't remember the name of the damn show. Leapers. Sliders. Sliders was the name of the show. Okay. with Jerry O'Connell. That show had an episode that everybody wore a necklace. And if you told a lie, you got shot. I would love to see every politician, every department head have to be forced to wear one when they're in senatorial and House committee meetings, when they're having hearings. You're going to be a nominee as a judge. I want, or as a department head, and you got to go through a House and Senate confirmation hearings. Damn straight, I want to see you have that necklace on and see how many times your ass gets lit up. I would love to see Mayorkas and Ray, sit up there and have to wear these and let uh, Cruz and Kennedy and these other guys ask questions. That is what I want to see. And yeah, I want to see them on the Congress Critters to make sure that the questions that they're asking are honest. That they're not lying about the questions that they're asking. You know, these people irritate the living hell out of me. They get up there and they don't answer questions and they lie to you. And the media, our news media, does nothing about it. Yeah, okay, fine. You know, you got MSNBC, they're not going to sit up there and berate on Mayorkas for not answering these questions, answering some questions. But wouldn't it be in MSNBC's, and I'm picking on them here because they're the most liberal of the networks. Wouldn't that be in their wheelhouse? Be wanting to know why these immigrant children aren't being protected, why they're out there being sexually abused, while they're out there being physically abused. These are children of color. Where's Reed and the rest of these people that are, you know, so against POCs being abused? Isn't it an abuse to have these young girls being essayed, young boys being essayed? They're not in school to get an education. Aren't these people, these children being abused, and the networks are intentionally ignoring it? Where's Morning Joe and his people at? So anyway, guys, gals, boy, I made it through the stream today with, I don't think I had any computer issues. That weren't my fault. But I want to thank everybody for popping up. Okay, I do appreciate you. I don't understand why you want to come out and listen to me yell at a screen and everything else like I do, but I appreciate you for doing it. All right. And remember, tomorrow is Friday, so that means there's a no politics day. And That doesn't mean we're not going to say things that are going to get people upset, or we're not going to get, irritate each other. But uh, yeah, especially since we're coming into holiday season. But retro, yeah, well, retro, I want to thank you. All right, and Tyre, yep, Friday Fun Day. So everybody have a good one now. Enjoy yourselves. Be with the ones you love and love the ones that you're with. And have a good day.